We'll get started in the webinar in just a few moments. We're going to wait just a few minutes to let the rest of the attendees sign on, and we'll get started about 5 minutes after 1. Good afternoon to those who've just joined us. This is the webinar for Exploring Hands-on Banking. We're going to get started in just a few moments at 1:05. We're just waiting for a few other attendees to sign on. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Exploring Hands-on Banking. Again, for those who've just joined us, we're going to get started in just a few moments. Just waiting, giving an opportunity for other attendees to log in. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Exploring Hands-on Banking. We're going to go ahead and get started. The Florida Literacy Coalition is excited to be co-hosting this webinar with Wells Fargo, who is our partner in the Florida Financial Literacy Initiative. I thought I'd start out the webinar with just a little bit of information about the initiative. In 2014, the Florida Literacy Coalition developed a partnership with Wells Fargo to promote financial literacy through our network of literacy providers throughout the state. Through this grant program, we are able to provide resources and support for adult education and ESOL programs in Florida who would like to introduce financial literacy into their instruction. Although this is the first year of the program, it's been very successful so far, with many programs reporting an increase in understanding and knowledge of the essentials of finances and banking amongst their students. Many are also utilizing the free hands-on banking curriculum and taking advantage of the great community outreach that Wells Fargo has, such as presentations like this, to instruct their students. If you're not familiar with the initiative, we encourage all of you to learn more about the program and the free resources that Wells Fargo has to offer by visiting our website at www.floridaliteracy.org/FINLIT program. And we'll also go ahead and type this into the chat box so you guys will have that resource on hand after the webinar. So just quickly before we begin, I would like to go over a few of the tools that we have with the webinar and instructions on how to participate. So if you look over to your right, you should see a toolbar, and that should have everything you need to participate during the webinar. It is here you'll be able to use the functions of the webinar, such as asking a question or raising your hand. You should see the question box at the very bottom of the toolbox. Just click on the plus sign and type in your question, and we'll receive that, as well as if we're going to be asking questions throughout the webinar, so please do use the Raise Your Hand tool, which is on the left side of the toolbar at the very bottom. And you should see it as just a yellow hand there. So it's important to use these tools during the webinar, as you will notice that the participants' microphones are going to be on mute throughout the presentation. This is done just to avoid the disturbance of background noise. And although communication will be limited during the presentation, we will have regular pausing points throughout to ask and answer questions from the audience. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our wonderful guest speaker for today, Ms. Marilyn Drayton, who is Community Development Manager for the Florida region for Wells Fargo Government and Community Relations. Marilyn and her fabulous team do presentations on financial education and the free resources Wells Fargo offers all over Florida to support building financial literacy throughout the state. So thank you for joining us, Marilyn. And we'll turn it over to you now.
Financial education. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again for the opportunity to speak with you today about Wells Fargo's financial education program called Hands-on Banking. And I first and foremost just want to say I recognize that we're launching the webinar after lunch, so I thank you for certainly taking the time, and I will make a concerted effort to keep it as uplifting and as exciting and engaged as I possibly can. But we have a few exciting things in store for you as we progress in the webinar. As Jennifer mentioned, I'm Marilyn Drayton. I manage community development for Wells Fargo for the Florida region. And joining me today is one of my most valued team members, Heather Julin Pittman, who also provides statewide support of our community relations and corporate social responsibility efforts here in Florida. At Wells Fargo, we have over 650 stores that cover 5 regional markets throughout the state. And our team of 10 community relations leaders oversee our corporate social responsibility activities and programs, one of which you're going to certainly find out more about today, for hands-on banking. So over the next hour or so, I'm going to introduce you to this exciting program. Number one, it's fun. Number two, it's free, and we always like free, and most importantly, number 3, it can certainly help you and your family and friends better understand how to manage money and to help you be more successful in years to come. Next slide. So before I launch into our discussion today, and we'll progress on to the next slide, which gives you an overview of our hands-on banking discussion and agenda, I really wanted to provide just a few industry stats as relates to the state of our American households and their savings. This week, as many of you I'm sure knows, is America Saves Week nationally. It's a week that's honored every year, coordinated by America Saves and the America Savings Educational Foundation, and it started almost 8 years ago. They typically will undergo a national survey that assesses household savings for consumers. And just a few stats that I think is very pertinent and applicable to our subject topic for today that I wanted to share with you. First and foremost, it's clearly revealed that while most Americans are meeting their immediate financial needs, many are still worse off than several years ago, even during the economic decline. And that certainly isn't good news for those of us who are in this work. Only about 1/3 of Americans feel prepared for any long-term financial future. 68% reported that they were spending less than their income and saving the difference, although that 68% is down from 73% right at the in the peak of the economic decline in 2010. And 79% said that they were reducing their consumer debt or consumer debt free. However, that again is down from 79% in 2010. So while we still have some pretty significant stats based on the outcomes of the survey, it's obvious that there's still a critical need for financial education and really helping families to stretch the dollar and to do as much as they can to be successful given the amount of money that they currently make and or their financial situation. And so as we go into the discussion today, I'm going to share with you hands-on banking. I'm going to give you an overview of the program, provide some resources. We're going to have a lot of fun actually going on the site live and showing you some interactive simulations that are available to you. And then we're going to do a wrap-up in terms of benefits to you and your clients that you serve. And if we can just take a quick survey, if you could raise your hands if you and your organization are currently using any type of financial education curriculum or program right now with your clients. And I'll pause as we take the poll.
Okay, Marilyn, we're just getting the numbers in now. Quite a few.
Good.
About 10.
Perfect. Wonderful. Okay, that's excellent. And I commend those of you who are currently using that with your clients because, again, there's a lot of resources at your disposal. And in terms of being fully literate as a family or an individual, financial education is certainly a key component. So as we launch into our hands-on banking, why hands-on banking is important, and clearly it really speaks to, again, the need and the value of financial education. So we can go to the next slide. In these economic times, as I mentioned, we all need a sound basis of understanding on how to manage our money and to really be successful in obtaining our financial goals, be it a homeowner, if you're a business owner, if you're an educator, a student who's just recently graduated from college, you're entering into that first job in the workforce, or even parents. Wherever you may be in the stage of life, you and your clients will certainly will need information to help you make better informed financial decisions. These days, banking business isn't just the norm of a simple checking and a savings account. Their terminology as money market accounts, retirement plans, payroll services, real estate transactions, as well as investment banking. And each of those financial decisions certainly make very important components and contributions to your family's health as well as your future. Our philosophy here at Wells of doing business is pretty much summarized in a booklet that we call our Vision and Values booklet. Every team member has a copy, and you'll see that Vision and Values booklet on your screens. And in our Vision and Values, we really speak about challenging ourselves to be known as active community leaders in economic development and services that promote economic self-sufficiency and education. We're committed to promoting the economic advancement of everyone in our communities, and one of the ways that we do this, obviously, is by promoting financial education. And on the screen, you'll also see from page 33 in our Vision and Values booklet where I've highlighted teaching money management skills. So in 2013, we actually had several of our team members out, and they contributed over 92,000 volunteer hours, be it rolling up their sleeves, helping build homes, teaching hands-on banking. That's a core focus and a priority for us, working on environmental projects, mentoring youth, and certainly serving on nonprofit boards that help our communities be successful. It certainly is, again, a key value and value proposition for us as a company, which is why we offer this service free to the public. And there's no commercial, nor are there any product sales pitches that are involved. So in terms of our program highlights, as I mentioned when we started the webinar, it's animated, interactive for all ages, as well as different industries, available in English and Spanish. We'll show you that in a moment. I referenced there's no commercial content, so this isn't about developing new business for Wells Fargo or getting additional accounts. It really is purely about our corporate social responsibility commitment and making sure that the communities and our customers, again, understand the importance of financial wellness, and they can certainly be successful for themselves as well as families and generations to come. And one good point that I'd like to share is that the program also aligns with our both state and national educational standards for mathematics, reading, and economics. So that, I'm sure, is certainly very valuable and important to the educators that are on the line. It's designed for individual and classroom learning, so you could certainly do it on a one-on-one basis, and you can customize it based on your audience as well as your preference of time. Again, it's easy to navigate, and it's extremely fun to present in any particular setting. Next slide. Our hands-on banking program has also been awarded the PTPA, and that stands for Parent-Tested, Parent-Approved Seal of Approval. This approval constantly reviews new programs that improve the quality of family life through a rigorous parent testing. And so we were the first financial education program to be awarded this national seal. So obviously we take great pride in that. Our program has also been acknowledged and approved by the U.S. Treasury Department, and you could find it on their mymoney.gov site. And the National Council for Economic Education and the National Jumpstart Coalition for Personal Finance has also approved the program and provides direct links to the site on their website. So as we transition to the actual live site, our webinar administrator is going to be gearing us up to go live in a moment. And as we do that, I certainly, again, wanted to just pause to see if we have any questions in the queue just based on the openings thus far. Okay, well, we will continue on. So as you can see on the site, there are seven different modules or course content. We have military, seniors, entrepreneurship for those that are wanting to start a business, or emerging business that are trying to certainly expand or grow. We have an adult component, a young adult component, very, very important these days, as well as teens and for our kids. And if you would look at the top of the screen, as I mentioned, has a variety of resources, and it actually has designated entities, be it an educator in a school classroom setting, nonprofit. And so again, you've got various different areas and site locations that you can go to. What I want to do is just quickly show you the Spanish version. So if we could click on the Spanish version, and you'll see that all materials and each of the pages on the site offers this particular feature. So at any point during the site, if you're conducting a class or seminar, you can easily navigate to the Spanish, or you can navigate back and forth from Spanish back to English if you so desire. So if we go back to the English version. So in terms of resources, as I mentioned, we're going to scroll down to the lower part of the screen, and I just want to quickly show you where we have instruction guides. And the instruction guides or resources are really available, and they're tailored to basically whomever your audience is. So for educators, they will have instruction guides and mini guides for you to use with students of various ages. If you're young adults, certainly, or if you're, again, speaking with an audience of small business owners or aspiring business owners, then your instruction guides are certainly going to be catered or targeted to that audience. And so I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. We also have a feature at the bottom of the site where we solicit your feedback. And if we can go back to,
do you want to go back?
Let's go back to the, perfect. So in the middle bottom, you'll see an orange section that says we want your input. And so just wanted to make you aware, for those of you, hopefully that will be utilizing this program for your clients, that at any point in time, please do let us know how well the program is in terms of user friendliness, if the information is valuable, or any suggested recommendations for improving the program, you know, in the future. We do solicit and value your feedback. So let's jump into some live, fun aspects of the site. So we can click on the adult. So here you have the home page for the adult curriculum. And there are 6 different topics that are featured here. I'm just going to sort of walk you through a few, just so you could see, again, the interactive component and feature of the site. And so if we click on the first one, basics of banking services. Now, I've been in banking, gosh, almost 30 years now, and banking certainly isn't what it used to be. It used to be that there was just a handful of products to choose from for a checking account or savings account, but as many of you are already aware, you know, banking products have become very complex, and complex for good reasons. It's just really, again, over time, the trends and consumer demand has really prompted banks to provide more flexible products and services that meet individual needs based on, you know, where a consumer is at any point in their lifestyle. So I just wanted to share that. But in this module, you can certainly choose information for your clients on helping them understand all about a financial institution, how a bank operates, information on savings and checking accounts, ATM and debit cards. We're going to take you through a simulation in a moment. And also sort of using and managing your accounts. Bank accounts, again, depending on the account that your client selects, there's certainly a lot of features and fees that are associated with it. And it's real important for them to read the banking and the account disclosures that they receive. Certainly their personal banker will walk them through that at account opening, but oftentimes, you know, if someone is trying to get something accomplished during lunch hour or on a break, it really doesn't afford you the luxury of doing that. So they may take a lot of paperwork home, but again, I can't stress the importance of reading the disclosures so that they know all the nuances and aspects of the account that they've signed up for. So, Heather, let's go to ATM and debit cards, and we'll show them a simulation that both young individuals and adults find very fun. So it tells you what an ATM machine is, why you use an ATM machine, fees that are associated, as well as how do you use an ATM itself. So under Tools at your bottom left, we're going to walk through the ATM assimilation. So here's a screen of an ATM machine. And I wanted to share this because, we certainly, in our volunteer efforts, we, participate and volunteer our time with several organizations, some of whom they provide literacy services. And an ATM machine may, seem, pretty normal or comfortable for those of us who are accustomed to using it. But for someone who's just learning to read, it may be a bit intimidating. Or someone who may just be, using an ATM machine for the first time. So I thought I'd walk you through this so that you can show your clients, based on the need and the interest, hopefully so they'll become more comfortable in doing so. So Heather's going to walk us through as if she's utilizing an ATM card for a transaction. Okay. So I'm hoping that was helpful for you, and like I said, it certainly is something that may be comfortable or a norm to many of us, who've maintained a bank account for some years, but we still have a lot of individuals and families in our population who are either unbanked or underbanked, and something as simple as this transaction, again, could certainly be a bit overwhelming for them. So we can close that out. And the next simulation that we'll show you under Tools is where we have a basic calculator. And so again, you could use that in live mode if you're presenting to a class or working with a client. If we'll close the calculator out, and then also show our audience the formulas. And they have several of these formulas.
Hey, Marilyn, hold on one second. It looks like we lost you in audio. Let us just try to fix that for a moment, and we'll resume the presentation. Okay, hold on one second, folks. We'll get it back online in just a second. Hey, Marilyn, we're still not getting your audio. If you can hold the presentation for just a moment while we try to reconnect, that'd be great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for holding on. We're working on fixing the audio situation right now. We'll try to get it back online in just a moment. Hi, everyone. I just sent a message out on the question board, and hopefully you received it. We're working to rectify the audio situation right now, but rest assured it's not coming from your end, but I think the presenter is having a connection issue right now, but we're working to get her up online again momentarily. So hopefully we'll be back online. Just to answer the other questions we had on the chat board, there's a question about, will the presentation be available to use after the webinar? It will be available, and we can send it out to all attendees. It will also be recorded and posted on our website as well as our YouTube page. So you will have both resources after the presentation. Thanks, and thanks for holding on, and we'll hope to be back up online in just a second.
Okay, if we could just pause and take any questions. Thus far, I believe we had some technical difficulties there momentarily, so we certainly do apologize to the audience. But Jennifer, if you could let me know if there are any questions from the audience.
Great. We have you back on. I'm not sure if you got my messages, but we were offline with your audio for just a moment.
Yes.
We were just going over the questions, and I answered the one main question people were wondering is if the presentation will be available for use after this session. And I said it would be able to be used if you're okay with us sharing your PowerPoint with the audience. And we're also recording the presentation, and it will be available on our website as well as our YouTube page afterwards.
Absolutely. And what we'll do, Jennifer, is I will send you, Heather and I will resend a PDF version so that, it's a protected version since it'll be, out externally on your site. But absolutely. And Jennifer, if you could just share with us, well, again, we experienced some technical difficulties. We were sort of going through the simulation on a couple of pages on the site. Not exactly sure where the technical difficulties started, but I did want to take a moment and walk through some of the instruction guides, particularly for the educators' curriculum.
That would be great. That would be great. I think it cut out a little bit right after you were going over the tools on the first page, the calculators and the ATM.
Okay, so then the ATM portion, the simulation, was viewed.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we're back at so is that the only question that we had at this point, Jennifer?
At this point, because the audio cut out, but let's keep going, and I'm sure there'll be other questions later in the presentation, especially as we go over the tools on the website.
Okay, wonderful. So what we'll do is let's go to the educators component of the curriculum, because I think there's a lot of great information and instructor guides there. And Jennifer, just let us know if you guys are driving that on your end or if you want us to drive it on our end.
Sure, let me check with Nicole. Let's switch it over to you guys.
Okay. All right.
Okay, great. You should have it on your end right now.
Excellent. Wonderful. So if we launch the educators curriculum, and we can scroll down. So the educators curriculum embodies 4 different age groups, and you could see those at the sort of the middle part of the screen. So you've got kids. The kids are 4th and 5th graders. We have a teen of 6th through 8th grade, young adults, surprisingly, ages 15 through 21. I have a 22-year almost, and I'm just recently really considering her an adult. So it's interesting that they start at ages 15, but again, that's based on industry standards, and then certainly a full adult component. And so if we'll scroll down toward the bottom of that screen, it really shows us, again, some options for a great deal of resources. We have a course preview. So, for example, if you wanted to focus a particular session or an individual topic for helping kids to understand needs versus wants, budgeting for teens, helping young adults as well as older adults really understand credit. Because of, again, the economic decline, it's much more difficult these days to get a loan, so your credit scores certainly have to be a lot stronger than pre-recession period. And so all those things are important. And one good thing, too, and we'll click on it just for a moment, there's always a coach. So if we can just click on the voice control, there's a coach that will walk you through, you know, via audio, all the different components of the modules. So again, helping it or supporting the interactive feature of it. But it gives you the options of things you need to know before you even begin to borrow, understanding basic credit components, helping you understand a credit score, what a credit score means, the 3 different credit reporting agencies, certainly looking at, you know, features of credit cards. There's been a lot that's occurred federally regarding legislation around, you know, credit card and usage and how credit card companies can charge excessive fees. So you certainly need to be mindful of that. And just, again, trying to manage your debt and not, again, become too excessive, you know, incurring a lot of debt. And so if we look at, if we also then go back one slide, and if we'll click on the instructor guides, right under Get Started Now. So in the instructor guides, as you can see on the left, they're downloadable. They're easy to print. They're PDF versions on the left. And so again, depending on your audience, depending on your subject matter, you can certainly print one of these out, make copies. You know, it's just a lot of different things you could certainly do. And we do offer this program via CD-ROM as well. So let's just, Heather, if we could, let's go to Money Management Tools and Tips Instructor Guide. Just want to give the audience, again, a visual of what the guide looks like. You know, some may certainly be lengthy, but again, as a coach or trainer or a tutor, you have the flexibility to customize it and minimize it depending on, again, your audience or the particular subject matter. So I wanted you just to be aware of that. And because we're in live mode, it is taking a few moments, so there may be a bit of delay from screen to screen. But I wanted, again, for you guys, everyone just to see the information. It's just a very user-friendly program, and allows you, like I mentioned, to customize it and make it really fun for your audience. Lots of handouts. Particularly for the teens and kids, there are a lot of activity sheets and handouts that makes it fun in a game-type fashion that makes learning fun for younger audiences. So we can close that out, and as well as the pre- and post-test. And I know that's important to see how well your audience and your, again, the individuals that you're tutoring, how well they really grasped and understood the information. So we'll close that particular component out. And then what I want to do is take us back up to the top, and we're going to go back to the courses. If you go to the courses and click on the courses to the right. Perfect. And so this, again, just gives you just an overview slide. It sort of summarizes, you know, all the information. I'm not sure if some of the individuals on the call, if they particularly focus on families that are military or families, certainly, you know, Florida as a state, we have several military bases. And so we as a company, we have a focus around military and supporting veterans. And we also work with several nonprofits who also have, the same or comparable focus. And so if you're certainly working with military families, if we'll click on military, all the information in hands-on banking is the same information, but it's customized to be a bit more user-friendly for military, from anything from just the attire that you see, the individuals that are featured on the site, where it talks about being financially prepared for PCS and when families certainly are being deployed or separated because of deployment. Again, all those things are pertinent and targeted for military. If we could go back, I want to just show them the seniors component. We work very closely with several nonprofits that focus on the senior population or elderly population, including ARP. And one of the things I really have to emphasize the most is how important it is for all individuals, really, but especially for elderly individuals, to really understand ways nowadays that they're being victimized. They certainly sometimes are targeted by certain scrupulous things, and so I'm hoping that if you do have an audience of seniors that you're working with or that you're tutoring, please make sure that you're giving them information off of this site, helpful safety tips, security and safety tips around scams. Many of them are home, certainly home-based, and they're not able to leave their home. So lots of individuals, again, will call. We know fraudulent activity and scams are just on the rise. So just helping them to make sure that they're protecting assets, and their money that they've worked long and hard for, and that they certainly deserve to enjoy while they're in retirement. So just a lot of, again, information. There's elder financial abuse fact sheets, and that may not be for everyone on the call, but hopefully some of you are working with some of your clients that may be elderly, or they're caring for an elderly family member or parent. If we can go back, and we can go back to the home page. All right, Jennifer, I think that covers the live portion of the site. And before we leave the live portion and go back to sort of wrapping up a few more slides in the presentation, we'll pause again to see if there are any questions from the audience.
Okay, great. Thanks, Marilyn. We did have one question earlier, and it kind of touched on what you were just talking about in the senior section. Nancy asked, who can we appeal to about unfair practices by our mortgage company? So I think she's referring to, we often get a lot of questions from our grant recipients about predatory lending and how can we educate people on predatory lending practices, especially those individuals who may be low in literacy and especially in financial literacy.
Well, one thing I will share, and this is, again, an area that Wells Fargo, as well as other banks, our other peers, are very involved. One thing, certainly, to make sure that your customers are aware, and nonprofits, there still exists the typical mortgage companies, and all mortgage companies aren't regulated federally under the same banking regulations as a full financial service company or bank like a Wells Fargo and others. So they're certainly not, they're not held to the same fair lending banking laws and rules. So that's one thing you certainly want to be mindful of and share with them. What I'd also do is the Consumer Protection Financial Bureau. They work very closely with a lot of HUD housing counselors that work with homeowners. Our bank does as well with others, to really help them understand a lot of the changing laws as relates to mortgage holders or homeowners. And again, to make sure that you certainly understand your rights, but also make sure you understand all the different stipulations and the various components. Documents you sign, information about if you're seeking a loan modification, and you could certainly register a complaint, again, through state agency. The state agency actually manage, or they're the governing entity for any mortgage company that's regulated by the state, non-federal. But certainly with banking, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is certainly another avenue that you can certainly, again, elevate any concerns about, like I mentioned, just targeted scams, if someone's being, targeted or any fraudulent activity they may be aware of. If there's ever any concern, and I offer this, Wells Fargo, we work very closely with all the HUD counselors all across the state, and we host what we call home preservation events. We do those throughout the regions and local regions, and it really helps bring homeowners into a forum and share information about their mortgage, home buying process, if they're in need of a modification. Some particular situations may warrant a short sale or refinance, but we try to make sure that we can help homeowners stay in their homes, but stay in homes such that their payments are affordable. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's some great information. We had a follow-up question to that. Michael asked, there's an enormous amount of information on the HOB site. Do you have any suggestions or guidelines for how long or how much training makes sense for an adult who doesn't read so well? They're asking hours, days, just looking for ideas on how they might introduce this topic and educate their students on the HOB
one thing,
site.
Excellent question, and I think it's very timely. We're currently working with an organization here in Jacksonville, actually, and it's an organization that provides services to disabled individuals, both physically and mentally. We're actually customizing our volunteer efforts in supporting the organization with actually coming on site to their agency and really starting with something as basic as helping them, to read a checking account statement, helping them understand banking and how banking works, as well as, again, with budgeting. So I would really start small, and I would probably recommend that the convenings or the sessions sort of be staged or scheduled on a continuous basis with maybe no more than an hour of frequency. And I've mentioned that because if you're already certainly focused on trying to increase your reading skills, if you're introduced to another nuance or component of finances and it's something that you're not accustomed to reading or may not have even had background experience in, it could really overwhelm a student. And you don't want to do that. You want to sort of make sure that you can customize and adjust the training based on what they can grasp and understand. And certainly, again, you could maybe, again, present some type of recap, not necessarily a test, but just testing their knowledge and understanding of the subject matter that you just covered in the prior session before progressing to the next session. If that makes sense?
That sounds great. So we just had one further question. I just wanted to touch again on the community presentations or community outreach that you all do throughout the state. Alicia asked, are there any resources available for nonprofits that are interested in adding financial literacy to their program outside of teacher's guides? And I just wanted to mention, I think, a lot of our grantees have invited their local branch to come in and do a presentation, teach a section of the hands-on banking curriculum, and I think that's a great way to start off introducing financial literacy into a program. Do you have anything else to add on that, Marilyn?
Yes, I do. In fact, we're going to go to the nonprofits at the top. So if you see beside educators, there's a nonprofits curriculum. And so perfect question, and very timely because we're in the midst of working with several nonprofits that provide financial education as a core component of their curriculum or their services on an annual basis. But this information really, again, on this particular page is really geared toward a nonprofit that's working with an audience or client. And I certainly avail myself as well as my team, and you'll see that in a few more slides in a few moments, that we can come on site or we can participate by conference call that we're doing now, but we can both come on site individually and or we can coordinate a team of Wells Fargo volunteers who conduct these classes all the time, and we certainly welcome the opportunity to work with you and support your efforts and sort of walk you through the process, you know, to implement a financial education component of your training.
Great. Okay, thanks for sharing. I think that's all the questions we have now if we want to continue on with the presentation.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Well, Jennifer, I think we're at a point that we can transition back to the live presentation deck.
Okay, great. You should have it up on your screen now.
Okay, and we're going to go to the next slide. And so, again, I wanted to provide the audience the actual website links or information. So online, you can easily access handsonbanking.org or elfuturoentumanos.org for the Spanish version. And as I referenced, we do offer the CD-ROM. Here's the actual website address that you can just click. It'll generate an email to us, and we can certainly, again, have that CD-ROM delivered or provided to you. Already mentioned, you can print any of those instructional guides or resource materials directly from the site. And again, you know, there's no selling of a Wells Fargo product. We do this as a part of our corporate social responsibility commitment to our communities and helping them succeed financially. So in terms of just overall benefits, just to recap, Jennifer did some research on the Florida Literacy Coalition and your members, and I certainly would like to commend all of you, certainly on the phone, that are part of the network, because I understand that 2015 marks your 30-year anniversary of the coalition work, and so that is a very impressive legacy, and we certainly commend you guys, and you know, we're certainly grateful for the opportunity to partner on this particular effort. But this hands-on banking provides yet another vehicle to support your work as you effectively deliver the resources that supports your training, your education, as well as any literacy efforts that you provide your clients. The program also helps you strengthen your client relations. And again, as I mentioned, helping them be successful overall, and not just today, but there's a continuum of client learning, and I'm sure that many of them will share this with friends, family members, and again, it's always great that we could see a lot of the fruits and the seeds that we plant, that they can be put into practice that will transcend and benefit generations to come. That's certainly important for families that historically have been unbanked and or underbanked in our communities. Next slide. And one thing I wanted to at least leave with you guys as well, that's real important. Some of the nonprofits on the call may or may not be aware of this, but the American Bankers Association nationally hosts 2 financial education campaigns year-round. The first one is Teach Children to Save. That's done or promoted annually across the nation by their member banks in the month of April, and Get Smart About Credit campaign is promoted across the nation annually by their member banks in the month of October. What I've listed, because we're gearing up as well as other banks in the communities to participate in the 2015 campaign period. Nationally, April 24th is recognized as National Teach Children to Save Day. Wells Fargo actually takes that a step further. And so historically, what we do is we set out both March 15th through May 15th to go out in our communities and teach children, adults, families, even small businesses about the importance and value of saving. And then in the month of, in October or the fall, although the date is to be determined by ABA nationally. Last year, we set aside September 15th through November 15th for Get Smart About Credit campaign. So those are two opportunities. I think one of the audience members had a question about how can nonprofits get involved. This is an excellent opportunity that you can certainly implement. I think next week starts off or kicks off the month of March. March is a great time that we'll certainly be in planning mode, and we'll launch our campaign on March 15th. But again, we avail ourselves, myself and our team, to come out and work with any nonprofit who's interested in, delivering hands-on banking with a focus on savings to their clients or the individuals and families that they serve. And I think I mentioned, again, that Wells has been participating in this ABA program nationally for many years, as well as other banks. And in 2013, we had team members who delivered more than 15,000, who actually taught more than 15,000 students during both these campaigns. So that's a lot of individual students and again, and consumers that are touched. So it's a major commitment of ours. It's a focus every year. And so we certainly extend the opportunity to come out and deliver those or work with any nonprofit or educators with these programs. And as I mentioned, that we had a list of our contacts. And so on this slide, you'll see the Wells Fargo contacts that are on my team that we primarily focus on and help administer the hands-on banking program in the markets. And as you can see, there are 5 officers that are dispersed throughout the state in North Florida, Central Florida, the Greater Tampa Bay, Gulf Coast, Naples, Sarasota regions, Palm Beach and Broward counties, and then certainly Southeast, which is really the primarily Miami and Miami-Dade area. Feel free to reach out to any of these individuals or myself. They are all aware that Heather and I are delivering this webinar statewide, and so they look forward to your emails and your calls to support you in any way that they can in implementing a financial education curriculum with hands-on banking. And last but not least, again, it's free, it's fun. We're certainly here to help. I'm hoping that the information was informative, and we can go to the last slide. Hope the information was informative. Great questions. Thanks to the audience. And if there are any other questions after this session, you have my contact number and information as well as our team. But I'll pause again, Jennifer, to see if there's any information or any questions that I can entertain from the audience.
So we'll wait a few minutes and see if anyone else writes in. But we did have a question. I think you answered it in your slides. But if we want Wells Fargo to come and deliver simple HOB training to some of our classes, whom would we contact? And that's really that list you just showed right there from the different regions.
Right. Exactly, and depending on if you're, again, and I'm not exactly sure the location of the various nonprofits and educators in their markets, but if you're in a city or a county and you want to know who the appropriate contact would be, and or the closest Wells Fargo store, we can certainly help you with that. But just feel free to reach out to us, and we'll get you to the right person.
Okay, and we have one more question. Can you email HOB website, please? And we can definitely send that along with the slides after the presentation is over to the attendees.
Perfect.
And one person asked, could you go back to the slide before the current one? I think people just wanted to see that contact list one more time.
Sure, we can actually leave it up.
Great.
I think if you guys can go back one, I think Heather doesn't have control.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Wonderful. We'll leave that up. Jennifer, I did again want to extend heartfelt thank you to, to both you and Greg for certainly extending the invitation to allow us to join. Our apologies again for the momentary technical difficulties. We know that certainly can happen with webinars, but hopefully, again, the audience and the attendees found the information, one, very insightful, but two, hopefully very valuable, so much so that our phones and emails will be populated with questions and invitations to certainly to reach out and begin working with them, because we welcome that opportunity.
Great. Thanks so much, Marilyn, and thanks for everyone for hanging in during that technical difficulty. As Marilyn said, it does happen with live things, issues, technical difficulties arise, but we got back online, and I think it was a great presentation, and we definitely want to thank you and Heather for putting together the presentation and running us through the website and showing us in detail the tools and resources that Wells Fargo offers. Thanks everyone for attending, and I definitely encourage you to check out the Hands-on Banking website in more detail, as well as take advantage of your local resources. Visit your local branch, find somebody to come and speak to your classes. They're a great help, and I definitely think it's a good way to start introducing financial literacy into your program. Again, we'll be emailing all the participants the presentation, as well as I'll include the HOB website, and we'll be posting the recording of the session on our website as well as our YouTube channel. If there's no other questions, I will hand it off and say thank you to everyone, and we'll close out. I'll just wait one last minute for any last-minute questions.
And Jennifer, if I may, it's Marilyn. I just wanted to just let you know that Heather and I will resend a PDF of the presentation before you circulate it, or you can house it on your site. So we'll get that to you ASAP. Great.
Okay, everyone's saying thank you. So thank you very much, Marilyn, Heather, and we'll close out the session. And
thank you, everyone.
And we'll be in touch with everyone soon with those resources.
Wonderful.
All right. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.